Breastfeeding is a totally normal thing and it's natural, so don't be weird. Nothing like having a baby to your boob, okay? If me feeding my baby offends you, that's a you problem, so you can go somewhere else, okay? It takes a lot of support, a lot of knowledge, and also the willingness to breastfeed. Hey loves, it's your girl Maddie J. I hope y'all are having a blessed day. So I'm sure you loves can already tell by the title, but we're gonna be doing another real talk video, and I wanted this real talk to be semi-educational yet kind of, you know, get to know me. I feel like all my real talks are pretty much, you know, sitting down with you one-on-one loves and just having you loves get to know me, and also answering questions pertaining to the topic at the time. And I'm pretty sure your loves already know, but we're going to be talking about boobies, okay? Now, I'm gonna shut you weirdos down right now. This video is strictly for educational purposes. Don't be gross in the comments. This is to either help any of my loves who maybe want to breastfeed, who are currently breastfeeding, to know that you're not alone, and or, you know, just to get to know a little bit more about me and my motherhood journey and my breastfeeding journey. Breastfeeding is a totally normal thing and it's natural, so don't be weird. Boobies are for feeding your babies, okay? So don't be weird. In the comment section, we are building a very positive learning environment around motherhood and self-care, etc. Also loves, I just want to also put a little disclaimer out there. I am not a lactation consultant. It's all knowledge based on what I've learned through the past 2.5 years of breastfeeding. So you loves already know. Before we can get into this real talk, we gotta go ahead and get a drink. You loves are gonna be so proud of me because I'm gonna be drinking some water. Yes, I know what you're thinking. You're like, girl, you stay on that sweet tea. Absolutely do, but I've been trying to get a little bit better and changing little things in my life that I can. So that's drinking less tea and drinking less coffee and more water through the day. So you already know. Let's try her. Not even with cap to love. It's not my favorite thing to be drinking, but it's okay. Alright loves, so you know, let's get into this real talk. So the first question is, how long did you breastfeed for? I breastfed Ezekiel till he was about 1.5, which was basically at the time that I had a Leo, and he kind of naturally weaned himself off. Thank goodness, because as soon as he saw his brother nursing, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna just let you have this one. Now don't get me wrong, he honestly still would breastfeed if I let him. Like if I was like, see, come here, you want a nurse? He absolutely would not turn me down. But he doesn't really ask anymore about it unless, you know, he's going through a little moment. Leo is currently about 1.5, like a month shy of 1.5, I believe, and I'm currently still breastfeeding him. So we're gonna see about the whole weaning off. I don't know, we might just let him nurse at night, because that's basically what he's doing now. He just nurses at night and not really through the day as much anymore. So stay tuned for that, because that might be a whole new learning experience, a whole new learning curve for me, because I've never had to wean a baby from breastfeeding. How did you cope with the boys biting you? Oh my goodness, loves. So I actually just commented on a girl that I went to school with, because she's breastfeeding her baby as well, which you go girl, okay? Because breastfeeding is not easy. I'm so proud of everyone that breastfeeds, and you know, sometimes you're not able to breastfeed. I'm proud of all the mothers, okay? Let me just say that, because being a mother in general and how you feed your kids is obviously what you decide to do, but for the ones who breastfeed, You know, biting is no joke. Now, Ezekiel and Aaliyah both, you know, as they're teething, they've bit me. Most of the time it's on accident, but a few times there has been where they bit me on purpose, and it took everything in me not to come out a gangster to them, okay? Like, it took everything in me. So I basically unlatch them whenever they bite me, and then tell them no, no, and then I relatch them, if that makes sense. And I do that every single time. And you know, as they get older, they dream feed basically. So whenever they're half asleep, half awake, and you know, they fall asleep with the boob in your mouth, they might accidentally, obviously I can't say no no then, but I unlatch them, and most of the time they'll want to relatch. So that's basically what I did. Did you ever use formula? No loves, I've never had to use formula. Now there has been times when like I was on my period and my hormones have like made my breast milk supply dip, but I've never stopped breastfeeding, and I've never had to supplement because I knew that my body would like produce as much as it needed to, if that makes sense. There would be like one night where they wanted more but they couldn't get more, but they weren't hungry, they just wanted more. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Has your milk supply ever dropped, and if so, what did you do? So yes, loves, my milk supply has dropped, just like in that last question. Usually around my period and when my hormones are kind of like everywhere, my milk supply does drop. And honestly, I would just let them nurse and nurse and nurse as much as possible to keep bringing my milk supply in. That's like when you first are in the hospital and you're trying to get that milk to come in. What you have in your breast at the moment is colostrum, which is basically like, it's not the fat milk, it's just milk, if that makes sense. Am I saying that right? Mom, don't come for me, because my mom is working towards being a lactation consultant, and she's honestly the one that helped me the most with breastfeeding. And honestly, if I didn't have her support and the knowledge of my other 7 siblings, I probably would have had a really hard time breastfeeding. And shout out to all the moms who don't have a good support system and still choose to breastfeed, because that's even harder. Like, breastfeeding in general is super rough and hard, but it's all worth it, you know what I mean? So yeah, to sum that up, my milk supply has dropped, and I honestly would let the babies nurse as much as as much as they wanted to. That way I could bring in more milk faster, because if you don't let them nurse and your milk supply drops, it's gonna stay dropped for a longer period of time. Whereas if you keep letting them nurse, that milk, your body is naturally going to pull itself out. I'm talking about my haze loves, like what? This one is a really good question, and it says, have you ever wanted to quit breastfeeding? Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember when I first had Zeke, and you know, it was all new to me. Having a baby attached to you at all times, like I'm talking like, I also breastfeed on demand, or at least that's what I was taught and what I knew as normal, and it absolutely is normal to breastfeed on demand. Basically what that means is when the baby wants to nurse, you let the baby nurse. And it was just, I'm very much a touchy, lovey person, but there is such a thing as being touched out by your baby, or about anyone in general, and just having him like latched every hour, every 30 minutes, every 20 minutes, every 2 hours at most. And he didn't even go every 2 hours when he was first born. It was about every hour to an hour and a half at the most that he would not be breastfeeding. So it was just a very big learning curve for me, and I absolutely did want to stop breastfeeding, which my experience with him was pretty good. His latch at first wasn't the best, but it was definitely better than Aaliyah's breastfeeding journey. He latched on really good, but as time went on, I wondered like why it was hurting me so bad, and it turns out he had a tongue tie, and a tongue tie, you know, is basically inside your mouth. You know, he can't stick out his tongue all the way like like we can. So it was hard for him to really open his mouth wide, like, and stick out his tongue to be able to latch, if that makes sense. So it also caused me a lot of pain because he was only basically getting around where my areola was and my nipple. He wasn't opening up fully. So he was like, pretend like this is my nipple, okay? You got the areola around. He would only be like right here versus like right here, if that makes sense. So it caused me a lot of pain, still does to this day. I just kind of got used to it. My nipples kind of calloused over. I know that sounds kind of gross, but they obviously don't look weird. They basically just got used to his latch, but I wanted to quit so bad, loves, because it hurt me so bad. I knew personally I didn't want to add formula into, like, with my breast milk, and you know, some moms do that and that's what they want to do, but for me personally, I didn't want to do that. There's so many risks now with formula feeding, you know, so much formula being on recall, and not even that, just I know that breast milk is literally liquid gold and it is the best choice. And sometimes I know some mothers that, you know, aren't able to breastfeed, but if you are able to breastfeed, I highly recommend it because it is literally the best thing that you can give your baby, and I know that. So, and I was able to push through that and still continue to feed him, which the doctors still to this day were like super amazed at the fact that I was able to push through it, because it absolutely is super painful, and usually it causes, you know, baby not to get enough milk. But right off the bat, like, it's normal for babies to lose weight the first week after coming home, just because, you know, they're adjusting, and then they start after that first few days or a week, you know, they start to gain that weight back. Yeah, like, I don't even think he lost 1 pound, to be honest. He was getting so much milk and he was packing on the pounds, so he was getting everything he needed. It was just me that was in some pain. I feel like I've been talking, I haven't been drinking. So let me go ahead and get a little drink. What was the most you have pumped out? To be honest, Liv, I'm not a really big pumper per se. Like with Ezekiel, I never really had the need to pump because he was just always with me wherever I went. And same with Aaliyah, like to this day, they just go wherever I go, and that's the beauty of it. Like I can just latch them wherever, whenever, because I'm not a really big, like, I know some women, you know, usually like cover, they have to go into a room to breastfeed, which is totally okay. But for me personally, I'm not going to look at somebody who is bottle feeding their baby and say, excuse me, can you take your baby and feed them somewhere else? No. I'm not gonna look at somebody who is eating food out in the food court with their mouth open, chewing. I'm not gonna say, excuse me, ma'am, or excuse me, sir, can you go eat somewhere else, because I don't like how you're eating or how you're feeding your baby, etc. So that's at least how I view it, and I don't mean it in like a rude way, but like if me feeding my baby offends you, that's a you problem, so you can go somewhere else, okay? Let's go back to the question, okay, which was, what was the most you have pumped out? And the most I've ever probably pumped out was with Aaliyah, because at the time, when he first was born and within the first few months, he was non-stop nursing, which, like I said, is normal. I breastfeed on demand. My milk supply with Aaliyah in the beginning was just so much compared to whenever I had Zeke that I had to pump. So in the morning, I would get up with the boys. I would nurse them on one side like I am now, and then just basically pump on the other side. And also, that allowed Babe to basically feed him at night. So we were on like a good routine of that when he was first born, which was totally different than with Zeke, where Zeke, I never gave Zeke a bottle. And Aaliyah still, if you gave him a bottle, probably would have a hard time learning how to do it, just because we didn't stick to it. But yeah, the most I've probably ever pumped out was about 5 to 6 ounces, which is like a lot whenever you're talking about pumping, because the pump to your boob, or the pump to your breast, it actually doesn't have the same suck as your baby would. So a lot of times mothers don't pump out as much as they would if their baby was nursing, if that makes sense. So, which I think is amazing. Nothing like having a baby to your boob, okay? You know that the average is probably, I think my mom said 2 to 4 or 1 to 3, one of those two, but it wasn't very much. That's the average. A lot of these women that do pump and get like a lot of milk is because they have an oversupply, an abundance of milk, okay? That liquid gold. But that is not normal, and I feel like a lot of mothers see stuff like that on social media who do want to breastfeed and get discouraged, like, why am I only pumping out 1 to 3 ounces? Like, why is that? And it's literally because your supply is regulated to what your baby needs. And those mothers who are producing a lot of milk like that is because they have an oversupply, and some moms have it and some moms don't. Follow-up question, it kind of relates to how much have you pumped out. It's how many times do you pump a day? Right now, Aaliyah, like I said, is about 1.5. I don't pump at all, but whenever I did pump with him in the beginning, I would pump like twice a day, once in the morning and then once at night. I'm blessed to say that still am able to stay home with my boys and breastfeed them when I wanted to. But I know a lot of other mothers who personally just exclusively pump, and they're on a pumping schedule like this, okay? And pumping is no joke. Like, I want to say I have it easy whenever I'm breastfeeding them, because pumping is just so much work. How much is Aaliyah breastfeeding? Probably like 3 to 4 times within 24 hours, if that makes sense. He nurses once before nap time, while he like goes to sleep during nap time. And then after he takes a bath in the evening to go to bed. And then through the night, he probably wakes up probably twice to nurse. I call it dream feeding because it's not actually nursing. It's like a pacifier, basically. But that's because we co-sleep. No hate. That's what we choose to do and works best for us. Are you kidding me? You! So these 2 questions kind of go together. The first one is, were you able to eat and drink what you wanted to while breastfeeding? The answer is yes, loves. I eat and drink whatever I want to while I breastfeed. I would just, what you eat is what you're giving them. So just remember that, because whatever you eat does affect them, and what you drink does affect them. So be mindful of that. Like, make sure you eat lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, things that nourish your body, to where you're able to get nourishment from it, as well as baby. Now, I'm not perfect. I do eat fast food. I did eat out. Yeah, just make sure that you're drinking and consuming a lot of water, loves. Make sure that you're hydrated so that the baby can get hydrated. Are you able to drink alcohol? Yes, love, you're able to drink alcohol while you breastfeed. It's just, you can have 1 drink, but then you can't breastfeed for 2 hours. So just be mindful of that. And then how many ever drinks that you have, times that by 2. So if you had 2 drinks, that's basically 4 hours that you're not able to breastfeed your baby. Now, if it was an emergency, I'm sure that you're able to breastfeed your baby, because I don't think that there's a lot of research that is done on mothers who drink and breastfeed their babies, but I don't think a lot of the alcohol is able to get to baby. It's just, to be cautious. You know what I'm saying? And that's always a good thing. To end this real talk up, the last question is, how do you know if they are getting enough? That is one question that I get from a lot of friends that have decided to breastfeed their babies, and they had questions about it. I also send them to my mom because, you know, my mom's the lactation specialist over here, not me. It's just what I've learned from her throughout the years. Just breastfeed on demand, which that is kind of how I know that they're getting enough, because they're just nursing when they want to. The 4-hour rule isn't for mothers who are breastfeeding. That is for formula fed babies. Breast milk is, you know, probably every 2 hours, maybe less than, if your baby's hungry. My philosophy is, if the baby wants to nurse, I latch the baby, period. Like, that's how I know that they are getting enough, because they're eating when they want to. They're eating when they're hungry. They don't eat when they're not hungry, if that makes sense. That's just personally what I go off of. Of course, in the beginning with Zeke, that whenever I, you know, it was all new to me, and even though I had my mom, I still was like, Mom, he is latching every hour, every 20 minutes. Like, why is that? Is he not getting enough? Is he, you know? And she basically told me that, which gave me a little bit of peace of mind. But also, whenever you take them to the doctors, if they're gaining a little bit of weight, you know, keeping the same weight, make sure that they're not losing weight, stuff like that are like signs. Also, if it helps and you get to do a sense of peace, you can always breastfeed and pump. So you can pump and then give your baby a bottle whenever it wants it, and then you can see how much ounces that the baby takes in that amount of time, and how long the baby waits for another, you know, 3 ounces or another 4 ounces. So like, do whatever is peaceful in your mind. Also, loves, I just want to add that our bodies are so amazing when it comes to knowing the right amount to give to your baby, how much to keep regulating, and it's just amazing. A woman's body is so amazing. Even the mothers who aren't able to breastfeed, you know, you're doing what you feel is best for your baby. If you're not able to breastfeed, one of my really good friends, she basically just pumps. She exclusively pumps and gives her baby her breast milk, because that's what she was able to do. So she kind of just stuck with it, and she is a trooper for that, because that is a lot of work to, like I said, to just exclusively pump. But you can also do that, loves, if that works for you. Do what's best for you, loves. And this is just your reminder to give your body some extra love, and, you know that breastfeeding is definitely a journey for everybody. Everybody's stories are differently. Everybody's experiences are differently. Like, I've had 2 babies, I breastfed them both, totally different experiences, and I'm grateful that I'm able to give them their breast milk that they needed to. But, you know, some others just aren't able to, and that's okay too. I just want to be, you know, a community over here of positivity and love and, you know, unconditional support for all women, and all the ways that you're able to feed your baby, to give your baby nutrients. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do at the end of the day, okay? But yes, loves, so that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something about me, about breastfeeding. If you have any questions, you can always DM me, or I can send you over to my mom, because she also can help you, along with a lot of other friends that are going through the same program and have gone through the same lactation program, to help you, loves, because it is definitely not easy by any stretch of the imagination, and it takes a lot of support, a lot of knowledge, and also the willingness to breastfeed. I hope you loves enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, loves.